A cover letter, or a letter of introduction, is another important element of the application packet. It's your opportunity to tell your story and explain why you are the right person for this particular job in a clear and concise manner. I've talked to many people who conduct paper screening through the years. Quite a few readers move from the application to the resume, while others love to start with a cover letter before they dive into the resume. With this in mind, your cover letter might be just the thing that pushes the reader to dive into your resume. To make sure your cover letter achieves its goal of telling your story, I'm going to touch on the following elements. Using your research to tailor your cover letter, being concise and not droning on, using your first paragraph to hook the reader, sharing something that is not on your resume or application, addressing employment gaps or potential red flags, and then wrapping it up succinctly. All right, using your research to tailor your cover letter. Like with your resume, your cover letter should demonstrate what you learned from your research about the school or district and the job for which you're applying. And again, like the resume, if you're applying for multiple jobs at the same time, you need to tailor your cover letter. Of course, you don't need to make a lot of changes. A few key changes can demonstrate that this letter is for this particular job, you've done your homework, you understand the role, and are confident and ready to step into it. All right, let's talk a little bit about being concise and not droning on. When you start writing your cover letter, do so with a length in mind. And if this idea freaks you out, take a deep breath, because it freaks me out too. I'm going to talk a little bit about this in a minute. Your cover letter should be about 5 paragraphs long and no more than 1 page. One important skill that a leader must master is knowing how much to say and when. This is a mantra you're going to hear a lot from me throughout this class. If you as an applicant cannot control yourself in the application process, will you be able to control yourself in the position? And also remember that the best way to lose someone reading your cover letter, other than errors, is to drone on, usually by sharing everything in your resume and application, or adding something about your every accomplishment. This is not necessary to achieve your goal. Remember, the goal of this letter is to share enough in such a thoughtful manner that you get invited back for an interview. All right, so back to writing with a strict length in mind. I know some people, like myself, have a hard time getting started when writing concisely is required. I find that I do my best writing when I just throw a bunch of words and ideas onto the paper, or more commonly a screen these days, without worrying about length and even, to a lesser degree, worrying about structure. Once I have my thoughts on the page, I'm able to then organize them to better meet my needs. I almost always write more than I end up needing. I find that for me, it's easier to cut out words than to write in a structure that's so tight that it gives me writer's block. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you get there, but I think it's very important that you stick to about 5 paragraphs and 1 page. All right, so the first paragraph. Let's talk about using your first paragraph to hook the reader. Your letter's first paragraph should contain a hook that pulls the recruiter into the letter. What kind of a hook? It could be a compelling statement that demonstrates why you are interested in this particular job. It should be honest and heartfelt while demonstrating a level of knowledge about the position and the school or district. I'll share a sample first paragraph that an experienced assistant principal might consider building off of when applying for a principal job. I am ready to bring all I have learned through my professional journey home to our community as the principal at Browns Valley Elementary School. With over a decade of service, including teaching in a variety of diverse public schools in neighboring districts, and 2 years as an assistant principal, coming home to work with your team to improve outcomes for all of our students would be my honor. Notice that in that paragraph, I try to build an emotional connection between myself and the reader. I share a little bit about my values, home, community, serving all kids. I share a little bit about my experience without great detail, because they can find that elsewhere. I also set the tone for the rest of the letter. All right, now let's talk about considering sharing something that is not on your resume or application. Your middle paragraphs should connect the compelling story from your intro with the job posting and explain why you're the right person for the position. This is your opportunity to connect your experiences and values most relevant to this position and how that experience has prepared you for this new role. You could share something that is not specifically on your resume or application, like a commitment to certain systems. Again, this is not the right place to simply reiterate your experience or your education. Here's an example of how you can build on the introductory paragraph. In researching Browns Valley Elementary School and talking to people in our community, I realized that your commitment to positive behavior interventions and supports is aligned with my values, strengths, and experience. Implementing PBIS-based practices provides schools with the best opportunity to support their students' academic, social, emotional, and behavioral success. In this paragraph, I connect to my theme of our community. I also connect to some of my other values, like implementing research-based practices and supporting all students' academic, social, emotional, and behavioral success. I'm not telling the reader everything. I'm telling them enough to get them to want to learn more about me in the interview. All right, now let's talk about using your cover letter to address employment gaps or potential red flags. If there are any gaps or potential red flags in your resume, consider using your cover letter to put the best possible spin on your story. You want the recruiter to get the best version of the story rather than allowing them to create their own version in their head. A couple of examples could be breaks in employment or a pattern of short job stints. If you have a gap in your employment history, tell your best story. Here's an example of how you might want to approach it. 3 years ago, I made the extraordinarily difficult decision to resign my position as the assistant principal at Admiral Farragut Elementary School to care for my ailing parents. After supporting them through those challenging years, I'm happy to say that things have stabilized, and now I'm 100% ready to recommit myself to one of my greatest passions: supporting students, staff, parents, and community. Notice that again, I share my story concisely, positively, and ensure that it's aligned with one of my values that I've shared throughout the rest of my letter. If you do choose to address such issues in your cover letter, ask that trusted person in your life to review it to make sure that you don't come across as defensive. All right, now it's time to wrap it up succinctly. Your closing paragraph should demonstrate confidence, appreciation to the reader for the opportunity. It should reiterate your passion for the position and point towards a future connection in the interview. Then end with a respectful sign-off like sincerely, thank you, best regards, or respectfully. Here's an example of what that could look like. I am confident that my skills and experiences have prepared me to come home to this incredible opportunity. I would love a chance to share more about myself and to learn more about your needs to determine if there's a match between the skills and values I bring and your unique needs. Should you have any additional questions or need anything else from me, feel free to reach out via email or telephone. Sincerely, Chris. Follow this basic plan and you'll increase the likelihood of you moving through to the interview. Let's check in where we are. Application complete and accurate? Check. Your resume is accurate, prioritized, and mindful of the reader, and submitted in PDF format? Check. And your cover letter tells your story and is submitted in PDF format. Now all you need are those pesky references and letters of recommendation. Let's explore that next.